Hello and welcome to another edition of the Watchful Citizen, a local cable access program brought to you by the Lancaster County Democratic Party. My name is Benny Shobe, I'm your host. And today we have City Councilman Doug Emery as our guest. City Councilman Emery represents District 1 in the northeastern part of the city and commonly known as the Havelock community. Doug, welcome to our program.
Thank you, I appreciate being here.
I appreciate you coming on. I'm looking forward to asking you a lot of questions about City Council and what you do. I want to start with, most people think you're a City Council person and they just hear about you sitting in City Council meetings. Mm-hmm. What is the job of City Councilman? What do you do?
Well, actually, there's two different sets of City Councilmen. One set if you're elected by a district, and another if you're an at-large. I happen to be elected by a district, and so I spend a lot of my time working on problems inside of the district. We tend to get most of the calls from citizens who have issues, concerns, want us to come out and look at certain things, trees, streets. So I spend a lot of my time doing that. Additionally, we're all assigned to committees. Most of us are involved in at least 3 or 4 committees. I happen to be involved in 7, not counting the JPA. So I have a fairly consistent weekly meeting schedule.
Well, you mentioned that responding to citizens. When I was trying to schedule an interview with you, I went by your office at City Hall, only to find out that you're not in your office at City Hall. You're out in the community most of the time. How do citizens reach you if they want to talk with you about something?
Well, if you call the City Council office, the lady who answers, Mary, has my cell phone number. And I'm not afraid to give you my cell phone number. I'll give you my cell phone number right now. I learned a long time ago when I was working at the post office that if people are angry and they're trying to get a hold of you and they can't get a hold of you, they're not less angry when they get a hold of you. So they might as well talk to me. The other thing is, a lot of times I'm able to take calls while I'm between meetings and those kind of things. So, and if it's a question, I think there's some idea that maybe city councilmen understand a lot about what goes on there. Frankly, what goes on downtown is mostly run by the experts. And if I don't get home till 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, and somebody calls me with a question that I need some sort of expertise, I obviously can't call them at that time. But if I take that call at 2 in the afternoon while they're still working, I can make that phone call. A lot of times we can have that problem resolved in that day rather than have to wait. And like I said, you already have an angry citizen in a lot of cases. So, but my number is 540-3805.
When I spoke with Mary in your office, I was a little surprised that she gave me that number. About how many citizen phone calls do you get a day?
It varies, but I usually hear from 10 people a day at least. Not necessarily angry. Sometimes just trying to understand what it is that they're doing. If they didn't watch the meeting, the report in the paper might not be clear enough for them. They might have an opinion on an item that's coming up in front of the council, or something we talked about the day before and maybe we're voting on next week. And so again, there's usually a pretty consistent 10 phone calls or so a day.
Wow, that's a lot. And you mentioned the meetings, and how often does the city council meet?
Well, we meet every Monday except for holidays, and on the last last Monday of the month, we meet at 5:30. So we actually do a night meeting.
Okay. The night meeting versus what's the other
date? We're usually meeting at 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock in the afternoon. Every Monday, except for once a month, it's a night meeting.
Correct. Except we have some months where we have 5 Mondays. We've kind of gone to the second one trying to be a night meeting too. What we're really trying to do is give everybody an opportunity to come down. We realize it's an imposition in a lot of cases to get off work to come down. So if we can move a few more tonight, that gives people an opportunity to come down. And usually those are open mic Mondays, so that also gives you an opportunity to speak to any issue that you'd like to issue.
Wow, I did not know about the second night meetings. That's great. I do notice that your meetings are also broadcast live on the 5-channel TV.
Absolutely.
And they're rebroadcast regularly.
Absolutely. And I think that's great. I think citizens in Lincoln have an opportunity to know more about city government than anything. Now, the one problem with that is that it's on TV, and sometimes meetings go a little long because everybody has to get their 2 cents in when it's on TV.
I have noticed that from time to time. I do watch the programs. But traditionally, the meeting runs an hour, hour and a half, sometimes 2. And you guys, listen, the city council people, listen to reports from experts. How much time do you get? You get information ahead of time, I guess is my question. How much homework do you do?
Every Thursday, we get a packet from the city council. It has everything that's going to happen this week, all of the new items that have been entered. And my grandsons think I'm a hero because the policeman stops at Grandpa's house every Thursday and drops the packet off. So and sometimes, we don't get them till later because they're busy, and so it's always there at the very least when I get up on Friday mornings, and you can go through you learn there's a way to go through all of the reading and try to, cut to the chase as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned earlier in the conversation about serving on committees. You said, I think, 8 committees you serve on?
Yeah, we have lots of committees. I happen to serve as a co-chair of the Problem Resolution Team, which is a group of different departments, police, health, building and safety, and we look at the worst of the worst properties, trying to clean those off. I'm also part of the Joint Budget Committee. I'm the co-chair of that. The Joint Budget Committee is a group that there's money put in by the county and the city every year, and we give that out in terms of grants for some of the smaller nonprofits. And I also work with the Railroad Transportation Safety Board. So there's plenty out there to do.
I'd like to go expand on that just a little bit more, but I'd like to stop for a moment and talk about this joint public agency thing. I'm very confused about that. So what you said, city and county?
Joint public agencies can be any group, but mostly it's when you have 2 separate governing entities and they're sharing a project. For instance, the city, the county share a JPA on the jail.
Yes.
Because we were in some of the financing for that, and so we were given an opportunity to sit at the table and have some say-so. Obviously, there's one with the arena, but that's 3. That's the city, the city council, the mayor, and the regions. So there are other JPAs out there. What it gives you an opportunity to do is to have joint control of something, and in some cases, those JPAs have the right to levy a tax. In some cases, they don't. In its own way, the railroad transportation is a JPA because it's the county and the city working together to try to look at railroad crossings and those types of things.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I understand that Lincoln, the city, resides in Lancaster, the county, but I've always considered them to be 2 different organizations almost working against each other.
I think Lincoln is very unique in that 90% of the county is inside of Lincoln. So you have a unique set of circumstances where virtually everything we do, both parties, the city and the county, are into and responsible for in some way or another.
That sounds like a great opportunity for coalition building and working together. The biggest thing on the horizon for the city of Lincoln, and probably the biggest thing on the western horizon, is the new arena. I think you mentioned that was one of those joint public agencies. Can you give us an update on the status?
I have to be totally honest and say to you, and I'll probably say this when we have the opening, is that in many ways I feel like the third string quarterback. I'm new,
yes,
and so the game is almost over, and the game has been decided, and they've put me in the game now. But actually, the first representative of the city council was Jane Snyder, and Jane did a lot of the work. And then after Jane, Jean Carroll, and Jane and Jean did most of the heavy lifting. There's nowhere for me to take claim for that. They should be duly recognized for what they've done. But basically, one of the regents, Tim Clare, the mayor, and myself, or whoever the city council representative is, look at about twice a month. We look at what's going on in the JPA progress. We look at how we're going to get it equipped, and a lot of that, again, is almost done because by the time the viewer sees this, the city will have taken the keys to the arena. That's Monday the 12th. I think we'll actually take
yes.
the keys to the
That
arena.
is very soon.
So that's terrific. That's good news, and it's a good thing because there's the first event is graduation, which is in there on the 17th, so that doesn't give us a lot of extra room.
No. So the arena it will be done shortly?
The actual arena will be done. There's obviously some other things that need to be done down in the Haymarket area, and there's some things that need to be done in terms of I don't believe all of the landscaping and those things are done, but for practical purposes, it's done, and we will be able to take care of it. You know, we're going to have a grand opening and a ribbon cutting on the 29th of August, and so there will be some things that have to be done between now and then.
Now, I'm still a little confused. I hope you can help me with this one. The arena is part of the whole canopy district.
Correct.
And that's a kind of public-private mix? How much is the city involved?
The JPA, for all practical purposes, only deals with the arena itself. But the mayor and I are also working on what's going on and being built around it. And certainly Tim Clare is a part of that. If on the arena itself and the property, all votes have to be unanimous 3-0 votes. As we talk about some of the things down Canopy Street, then there's not the requirement that it be a unanimous vote.
I understand. That helps. Thank you.
And quite frankly, I tell people all the time, they say to me, well, what do you think about the arena? And I say, I think we're way ahead of where we believed we would be at this point. I mean, the building, if you just go down there, you can see all the building it's generated and everything that's going on around it. When you look at the bottom line on the arena, you're going to have to factor in all of that building that would not have come and gone down in the Haymarket but for the arena being built.
I was in the Haymarket area last week, and I know what you're saying. There's a lot of development going on there, a lot of new industries coming in there, not new restaurants and entertainment, and some old standards, some old favorites are moving down there also.
And I would also say to the public, you need to have patience through this first year. What you see for the first football game this year versus what you're going to see for the first football game next year are going to be night and day difference, because we're still going to be doing a lot of construction down there. We're still going to have to figure out traffic patterns. We believe we have them figured out, but it's like anything else. Until you actually try it, you don't know. So if you'll have patience, I think I am really convinced that in 2 years or a year from now, that it will be hard to find people who are not in favor of doing it.
I understand. I'm excited myself. I'm going to go backwards to our committee conversation a minute ago. You mentioned 3 of the committees. What is the most exciting, or the one you enjoy the most? Is there a committee that you enjoy a lot?
You know, I enjoy all of them. Those 3 that I talked about, the Joint Budget Committee and the PRT, yes, and certainly the Railroad Transportation. I really have enjoyed them. I've been on all 3 of those committees since I started, and I'm now in my 7th year, which is kind of hard for me to believe. But so you grow into those committees, and you grow to understand how many people work very, very hard to get good housing and to keep housing from deteriorating in people's neighborhoods, and how important it is to the city that we have nonprofits. I mean, simply nonprofits do the work that the government simply probably would not do as well or as cheaply as they do. So it's very important that we make sure that we do everything we can to help those nonprofits. So those things, to me, are pretty equal.
It sounds like you're really involved in making sure that the government serves the citizens well through various different avenues. How did you get to that point? Why did you run for city council? How did you become a city councilman?
Well, if people that know Northeast Lincoln know that I wear Northeast Lincoln right out on my sleeve. I make no bones about it. I have a granddaughter who just graduated from there, who's a first 4th generation Rocket, and that's a school that didn't open until 1942. So it is. I know a lot of people out there, and they know me, And this is my way to give back. Most of what I know and what I have accomplished in life is simply because of mentors and coaches and people that I had in Northeast Lincoln. And you know, people made some fun of Hillary Clinton when she wrote a book called It Takes a Village.
Yes.
People in small towns and people in North Lincoln, and I'm sure you could say the same thing about College View and some other areas of town that are very, very close-knit, understood it took a village a long, long time ago. When I went to school, other parents had carte blanche to discipline you if you were out of line. I don't know that happens so much anymore, but I think there's a lot to be said. And Kathy Danik and Kathy was a couple years after I was in school, and she's obviously the school board president. We joke all the time that we live in Northeast Lincoln by choice. We do not live there by chance.
I understand. And Lincoln, the bigger village, has lots of little neighborhoods like the Havelock neighborhood.
Absolutely.
And I think probably the history of the Havelock neighborhood is really crucial to the development of Lincoln. I know the history of the railroad through there and the neighborhoods that spring up around it. And Lincoln is fortunate to have a lot of good communities like that and great leaders.
And fortunate to have been able to keep them.
Keep them.
You know, a lot of times when people, when areas like that are annexed into the city, they lose that identity. I think certainly Meadow Lane and University Place and Bethany and Havelock have fought very hard to retain their identity.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it adds so much to our community. And you do represent the citizens of District 1.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to give you a few minutes to tell them something. What did I fail to ask you that you feel like you should have? What would you like to make a statement?
You know, it's a very unique area. You know, at one time, the city divided very nicely at the corner of 48th and O Street in terms of population. And there were true quadrants. But now, because the requirement is that you try to equalize the number of citizens in each one of the quadrants per se, they rarely take on that true northeast, southeast, southwest, northwest identities. When I first got on the council, I actually had Piedmont and Wedgwood were in my district, and both of those are south of O Street.
Yes.
And so when you said to them, you're in Northeast Lincoln, they said, no, we're not. And so I had to recalibrate my understanding and say that you're in District 1.
Yes.
But if you look at those two communities, you know, really look at, say, the newer building. Let's not even take Wedgwood and Piedmont. Let's take Golf Park, which is basically the area to the east and south of 70th and Adams.
Okay.
That's new housing. They have different needs than older Havelock or older University Place. And so I think people have, it's a tough time sometimes balancing the needs of everybody. I'll give you a prime example of that, which we need to do something at some point with Dead Man's Run.
Yes.
We have about 800 houses that are in the floodplain, and there's something like that. That number may not be quite right. And realistically, we probably have to have a couple of holding ponds to the south of that, up in the Taylor Park area and some of that. But certainly I understand that the people in Taylor Park are not wild about holding pond in their backyard, nor are the people at the Lincoln Christian. Or not Lincoln, Lincoln Lutheran. But those are where they have to be, and so we have to figure out a way so that they understand that what they're doing is helping the greater good, which is the area down in West University Place, where we have all of these houses that we have a hard time fixing up because they're in the floodplain. So it's a balance. When we configured the districts the last time, I lost anything south of O Street, but I also now go out to 14th Street. So everything is kind of shifted to the north and to the west, and so that's another new area. Bicentennial Estates in that area out there is certainly a different area than older Havelock or older University Place or older Bethlehem. So it's a daily challenge to try to balance everybody's needs.
You said the city was kind of it was easier in the past to look at the four quadrants, four representatives, one from each quadrant, 3 at large. Where's the center point now of yours? How far downtown, or how far you mentioned 14th being?
Well, again, if you looked at where the center point was before we actually started, we turned the axis a little bit, it would have been about at 33rd and A Street.
Yes.
And so now we've turned that, and so now my area is less to the south and more to the west. So now the center of my area I probably go to 27th and O, and then back down. I come back down and go north again.
So kind of rotated counterclockwise.
Exactly.
But you are a representative for one district, but do you get calls from that at-large part? Do people from other districts call you?
Oh, absolutely. And what we try to do is get them in touch with their representative. I think most of us know our districts better than I know somebody else's district, and so I support their district. And they usually come to us and say, here's what the needs are in our district, and we try to support that, rather than me trying to get involved in something in somebody else's district. We usually try to siphon that back towards the district, whoever the representative is.
As a person who attends city council meetings from time to time and watch them on television and YouTube regularly, it appears as though you have a great working relationship with all the city council people. I know you do represent several different political perspectives. What's it like day to day working with other city council representatives?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it really is. I happen to believe that a lot of the partisanship is written up in the media and maybe enhanced. I think we work pretty well together. If you go back, there's always talk about 4-3 votes and those kind of things, but if you go back and look, I think you'll see the majority of the votes are 6-1, 7-0. There's always going to be, I think, philosophical differences. The reason my argument about partisanship, is it really partisanship, or is it there's a reason that I joined a specific party? My philosophy is closer to the Democratic Party, so I joined the Democratic Party. So does that mean if I'm philosophically still there and I don't necessarily agree with a Republican philosophy that I'm a partisan? No, what it means is that my beliefs happen to be in one place and their beliefs happen to be another. But I think we do, for the most part, really, really try to work hard. And certainly the first 3 months here with the new council has been very, very good. I say that, and we'll have something come in front of us that'll probably, and there are just certain hot button issues that probably Republicans, Democrats are not going to agree with, and that's going to make it appear that there's some sort of partisan ship at work, and I don't think that's necessarily so.
I do watch, and as you said, the votes are often unanimous or very close to unanimous. There's not often a divide. We did elect 3 new at-large city council people this year, and it almost seemed like the city council didn't miss a beat. They swore them in, and business went on as usual. Lincoln is growing, and it's pretty stable economically. What do you see as problems we might face in the future, or what do we have to look forward to as citizens?
We certainly have. Well, Lincoln has a unique set of circumstances in that about 38% of all of the property in Lincoln is off the tax roll. That puts more stress on, obviously, those properties that are on the tax roll. So that's why when things like Pershing Auditorium and the Innovation Campus and those things come up, you see people in the council generally across all lines are looking at how do we get more of those properties back on the tax rolls. The more we have on the tax rolls, the easier it is to equalize the amount. The other thing I think is, and I'm struck by this at times, how many people in Lincoln don't understand the relationship between the University of Nebraska and the city of Lincoln. We are joined at the hip. Normally what's good for them is good for us and vice versa. And frankly, they have 17 or 18,000 employees. When they're your number one employer, you do try to do things that make them, that work for them and certainly work for you. So I think Lincoln is on the way to something really, really good here. There will be hiccups, there always are, and certainly, we were lucky because we got through this last recession with very low unemployment. We have to make sure that we keep doing the right things to try to keep us out of those types of situations.
You did mention we weathered the economic downturn of the recession pretty well. There were some budget issues that faced the community. We had to make some hard choices. Does the future look brighter, or are we still in
No, the future looks brighter, but we are always going to have issues. I mean, I am always amazed when we have these discussions and we try to compare the taxes in Nebraska to the taxes in Iowa or the taxes in Missouri or Kansas or wherever. At the end of the day, there's only 1,800,000 people who live in the state.
Yeah.
It's hard to compare when there are more people than that in the greater Kansas City area, or
yes,
you know what I'm saying. And so I think we have to continue to try to be as good as stewards of the money as we can, and understand that there is a limited amount of resources out there, and we have to continue to spread them.
What other big projects are on the horizon? You mentioned in passing the industrial section.
Innovation Campus.
Innovation Campus, thank you.
Innovation Campus is the next step. We sat here for a number of years and we really didn't do anything. And so now we've bitten off several things all at once, the arena, the Innovation Campus. I think the Innovation Campus will be huge for Lincoln. I think it'll be huge for the state of Nebraska. Think about this. One of the leading uses of your state tax dollars is higher education.
Yes.
And essentially, because we don't have necessarily all of the resources here locally, we end up being a lot of times a training facility for those students after they graduate to go somewhere else. Yes. Obviously, what we need to do as much as we can is try to keep those people here in Nebraska. We've spent the money to educate them. Now we should get the benefit of exactly right, the dividend. So I think in that way, I think the Innovation Campus is going to be terrific. As Lincoln continues to grow, I think we're going to have discussions about what does growth look like in Lincoln. I think what you're going to see, what you're already seeing around downtown with the arena and the area that's going in around there is you see a lot more vertical building.
Yes.
Housing going in versus some of the building going on the edges of town.
Yeah, the new development on top of the Larson building.
Exactly. And those are changing paradigms, and so you have to kind of keep yourself up with those paradigms and how you're going to do that to affect Lincoln.
There are lots of other things I'd like to ask you about the development along P Street and some other issues, but we're running a little close on time now. I hope you'll come back another time.
If you'll invite me.
Yes, we'd love to have you back. We'd like to thank you for watching this episode of The Watchful Citizen, a public access program brought to you by the Lancaster County Democratic Party. Our show airs on Time Warner Cable Channel 13 on Tuesday nights at 10:30, Wednesdays at 6 p.m., and Saturdays at 12:30 noonish. We hope you'll tune in and watch the replays, and watch us again next week for The Watchful Citizen. My name is Benny Shobe. I'm your host, and thank you for watching.